Hey guys, GearKid660 here, and right now I'm going to be doing a review on my Iceco JP50 portable fridge freezer. This is the value alternative fridge freezer to the better known brands such as Dometic, Angle, ARB freezers usually stand priced around $1,000 and up for the same size, which is a 50. The JP50 in Amazon is usually $500 to $600 depending if it's on sale or not. So in short, what do you get for your money? What comes with the portable fridge freezer is obviously the portable fridge freezer comes with a 120 volt cord, also a 12 volt cord, and a divider for to be used inside the fridge if needed. Also, it comes with this, depending if you have it on sale or not, it also comes with this insulating cover, which protects it against scuffs and also tries to keep the cool inside and keep the heat out. Actually, I don't think it really does a good job of keeping the heat out because it's colored black. It's not reflective in any way, so obviously don't keep this thing in the sunlight. So what are the pros for this fridge freezer? Well, the first is the heart of this fridge freezer sports using a Danfoss compressor inside here. Sorry you can't be able to see it, but it is a Danfoss compressor. The nice things about Danfoss compressor is that it is a powerful, efficient, and above all, it is a respected brand name in the refrigerated and cooling industry. In short, it is the heart of the freezer. A weak compressor or a low quality compressor is essentially inefficient, and it will break down on you and essentially would be a complete waste of money on a fridge freezer with a crappy compressor. This particular compressor is shock resistant and is also capable of working on a 40-degree incline, which is a big thing for overlanders and off-roaders and long trip people. It is covered under a 3-year warranty for the compressor itself and 1-year warranty on everything else. I think the only thing that would break is probably the electronics, if that would ever break. Looking at the back, you can be able to see that this is the 120 connection over here. It has a 15 amp fuse, and this is where you would stick your 12 volt connection. This low, high, and medium is essentially the the battery protection settings, and which I will explain later. Now, going into the battery protection settings, it's essentially being changed by either you just put this switch low, medium, high, which is kind of weird. Typically it's supposed to be low, medium, high, but it's low, high, medium. But I usually put this one on low primarily because I use a Goal Zero power station or a Jackery power station, such as this. It is recharging right now, but as you can see, it's 11.9 volts. I will put the battery protection voltage ranges somewhere in this section of the video, but the reason why this is important is because, as you can see, it's below 12 volts. It can still continue to run if you put the settings onto low. And obviously, since this is a secondary, battery system, since I'm using this, I'm not using the vehicle's battery, so I don't care. This thing will just drop out to whatever it needs to before it cuts off safely. Now, obviously, if you are going to be putting this onto a vehicle, I suggest you put it on medium or high. And keep in mind, if typical wiring on a car or SUV, if you shut down the engine and take off the ignition, the 12 volt power would cut off and your freezer would turn off. So on a typical setup for me is that I would put a car charger onto the 12 volt socket and put the 12 volt or 120 volt connection onto this JP50. That way, when I shut off the engine, it would just simply turn off the power off this, stop charging, but it would continue the power via these two outlets, and your fridge freezer won't shut off on you. Other upsides to this lineup is that, as I said before, it comes in 3 sizes. This is the JP50. It also comes down in a 40 and a 30. The overall footprint, such as width and length wise, is the same. The only difference between the 30, 40, and 50 is how tall the unit is. Now keep in mind, if your unit or if your car or vehicle has a tonneau cover, you'll have to keep in mind how tall you need it. That way it doesn't interfere with your tonneau cover. Obviously this is an expensive, these things are expensive, so you probably want to keep it underneath a tonneau cover where nobody can see it and slash steal your stuff. So keep in mind, I will post the sizes over here. You can pause the video on this side of the video. This unit also comes with sturdy handles, which is really helpful for off-roading. I know it might not be a big deal for many people, but let me show you an example of a cheap handle. Even though it comes from a reputable company. This is a Dometic CC40. As you can see, look at how easy it is to bend. I would not even attempt to carry this freezer loaded, and I do not see anyone that would just take a quick tie or some kind of tie system and tie this down and expect it not to break. This is a crap handle system. This is a fairly sturdy system in which I don't see this thing breaking. Also, when you receive the fridge freezer, these come unassembled, so you can be able to, if you have any space restrictions, you can be able to remove this. But obviously, I don't have any space restrictions, so I just installed it in, and makes it very easy to lift, and it is very secure. Looking into the unit itself, pop it up, so you can see it has this string over here to prevent you from opening it and breaking the handle system. On the inside, you can be able to see, here's what you can be able to put in it. I got some pretty, like the huge size strawberries. I got mussels in here. I got a pretty big Tupperware with frozen vegetables inside it. I've got the Costco pork belly huge pack inside here, and on top of that, underneath, I got some blueberries and kiwi inside tin foil, so you can fit a lot of stuff in here. Also, you can be able to see these slots. If you remember, I have set a divider. That's where the divider would go. Let me straighten out, but obviously I'm not using it, so that's where you would put it. Also, if you have a hard time, another feature on this fridge freezer you cannot see in some other cheaper brands is that it has this storage wire basket, which means I can literally just pull everything all out at once instead of having to, single section everything like what I just did right now. An example of a fridge freezer which does not have that is the CC40. As you can see, there's no wire basket inside, so you have to literally take everything piece by piece inside if you're looking for something. This is the cooling / freezing section of the fridge freezer. This is where your temps, whenever you set your temperature, this is where you can be able to put, this is where the actual cooling takes place. At the back over here, this is just a cooling bin, more or less. As obviously, once this is sealed, some of the cooling from here goes inside here, so it acts as like a little mini fridge. I do not know why, but this also comes with an LED, which is in itself is useful, but they chose to make this a color blue, where everything else in the industry is white. Not sure why anyone would do that. It makes zero sense. If you open up the fridge freezer, you're going to be able to see it has their food types and recommended setting temperatures, which is pretty useful. And some other specs. If you want to read this out, you can go pause the video. Depending on when you buy this Iceco, sometimes this particular unit comes on sale with a insulation or insulation cover, which is form fitted. As you can see, it also has pockets on the side, so if you want to put your stuff or even your spare 12 volt, what's it called, wirings. You can put it over here, your spare fuses and whatnot. And as you can see from the top, you can also, once you zipper it up, you can be able to see what the temperature and everything else is on. It also zips up, has these high quality zippers. So you can have a well covered unit which is really well covered against scratches and bumps on the field. Obviously, when you're overlanding, you don't only just put your fridge freezer at the back of your car or truck, whatever. You put all your gear at the back, so that would definitely protect this this fridge freezer. As you can see on the sides, although the cooling fins, they have mesh on it, so you're not going to be interrupting the airflow of the unit itself. Obviously, when you put this inside your rig, make sure that you have enough clearance on where the compressor is, where those porous portions are, so you don't overheat or overexert the compressor, which would obviously shorten its lifespan and so forth. Operating the unit is fairly straightforward. You have your on off, you have your max slash eco mode. Max is basically what you use if you have very hot ambient temperatures, like within a car itself. Obviously, when you have air conditioning, it shouldn't matter that much, but some small SUVs don't have air conditionings in the back, which means it would probably take a while for your air conditioned air to get back there, and that's when you would use max. Obviously, you use eco for economy if you don't want the compressor to be working as hard. More or less, I use eco typically because I usually pre-cool the fridge before going anywhere out, so I don't need to use the max setting, which in my opinion probably puts out unnecessary wear and tear on the compressor and its refrigerating components. So obviously just use max when you absolutely need it. To change the settings, the temps, just press those buttons over there. And also, what else do I need to know? If you need to change this between, this is currently in Fahrenheit. If you need it in Celsius, you press these two at the same time. And you see that's -10, which is Celsius. And now you're in Fahrenheit, back in Fahrenheit again. Obviously, somewhere in this video, I would probably stick the instructions right here if you missed anything that I said, or if I missed anything. So now it's time for the cons of this unit. First thing that kind of irked me is the looseness of the lid. As you can, I hope you guys can see this. There's a little bit of play on the lid. On my other freezers, there is no play. And the reason why it kind of bugs me is because I don't know if that affects efficiency by any way, but I haven't seen it. It's just really off-putting, having a little loose lid. Next thing is, what do you see here that you don't see compared to these other fridge freezers? The controls are in the front. So if you open your rear hatch, you can be able to see them right away and operate your fridge freezers quickly. This one, if this is at the back of your car, you have to reach all the way back to see what your current temperature is, what your settings are for you to change them up, which is kind of an oversight on my point, because in Iceco's part, but I'm kind of thinking, why would you do that? When you these things will typically be put at the back of a car or an SUV or a truck, and when you open up the lift gate or whatever, the back door, you want to immediately change your settings or know what your settings are. This one, you have to go all the way up, pull it out, or squeeze through to see what your settings and change them. All the other units don't have that. It's really simple. Here's your set, up, down, set, up, and down. So who would I recommend this fridge freezer for? I would recommend it for budget overlanders or four-wheel drive people who don't want to use a cooler. that's packed with ice. You can be able to freeze and so forth inside this system. Obviously, I suggest you have a portable or a secondary battery system so you don't drain out your primary battery, which is used for starting the vehicle, which could leave you stranded. Although I do understand this has a battery protection system, I certainly prefer the peace of mind of having a secondary battery or tertiary battery. I also recommend it for long road trips. Throw this in the back of your SUV. You don't need to be an off-roader, but you throw this at the back. Obviously, keep in mind if you're going to less savory places or places you don't know what the security is, is it a safe place or whatnot, you're going to want to cover this with your tonneau cover at the back of an SUV. I also recommend this for a secondary fridge freezer. As people know, during this pandemic that's happening right now, it may be wise to have a second fridge freezer, and you don't want to buy, another huge fridge inside your house. You may not have room for this, but you might have room for this inside your house. So you can be able to put some extra freezer goods inside, such as mussels, pork, beef, and so forth. That seems to be about it for my review. If you got any questions, just leave me a comment. Please subscribe, and I'll try my best to answer anything. Thank you. Bye.